The first part of Gideon's war was to defeat the Midianites that were right in front of him. But when the angel spoke to him, he said, Gideon, go in this might of yours, you mighty man of valor, for God is with you. And Gideon's question was, well, if the Lord is with us, then why has all this bad stuff happened to us? The angel didn't answer him, but he is going to find out why.
And in the backstory in Judges chapter 6 is, of course, that Gideon was called by God. And then God put together the army that would go with Gideon, a very unique and special army. And the Lord says to Gideon, the people are still too many, bring them down to the water and I will test them for you there. You've got to have the right guys with you. Don't be surprised when you see God testing the people that you lead. Because for us, a lot of times, the wrong ones look like the right ones and the right ones look like the wrong ones. But God tests them and now you've got 300 chosen by God people. And now they're ready to go to war. God gives them the instructions. They head into the war. They smash the pictures and the torches come to light. They blow the trumpets and they holler, the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. It's dark outright. The Midianites are down there in the camp. They're totally surrounded by suddenly these torches and trumpets, and the confusion ensues. They start to kill each other with their swords. Gideon and his men see the wind taking place and they begin to chase these Midianites because they're going to absolutely annihilate them. So these guys are in hot pursuit of the last two remaining alive Midianite kings, Zebah and Zalmunna. And they come across the Jordan. Now here's an important battle principle. Do you remember when the Israelites came across the Jordan? The waters parted. They came through on dry ground. Remember when Elijah went back across the Jordan with Elisha following him? Bang, the waters parted. They went through on dry ground. Elisha picks up the mantle of Elijah, comes back to the Jordan. Bang, the waters part, and he walks through on dry ground. And now here comes Gideon and his 300 extremely tired and hungry men. They've got to wade through the water, through the mud, come up on the other side, and now they're tired, hungry, and wet. The convenience of your circumstances is no indication of how well the battle is going. That's good advice. The comfort and convenience, the ease of the circumstances around you are not an indication of how well you're doing. So Gideon and his men drag their butts out of the Jordan Valley and they come to Succoth. These are the Israelites that settled on the other side of the Jordan. They didn't care to go across to the promised land. They were fine where they were. So you've got a lot of Israelites living there, which Gideon is determined to finish this victory, finish this battle, and protect all of Israel. And Gideon asks the elders in Succoth for bread to feed his army. And the elders say, why should we give our bread to you? We're not giving you any bread. Yeah, we don't think you can catch these kings. Of course, these are times when the Midianites had been raping the land and bread was scarce, hard to come by. Gideon said, for this cause, because you said we're not giving you any bread, when the Lord has delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. That's some way to talk to the elders, isn't it? So then he goes on to Penuel, and he asks those guys for bread. They're getting more tired and more hungry than ever. And the Penuelites said the same thing that the Succothians said. We're not giving you any bread. We're not giving you our bread. He said, when I come back here, I'm going to tear this tower down. It was like their stronghold. We're going to get to tear it. And they're probably like, yeah, right, you and what 300 tired guys are going to do that, you know? So when Gideon went and captured those two kings and destroyed the rest of the Midianites, he came back and he laid a thrashing on the 70 elders of Succoth. He'd actually caught a guy from Succoth and made him write down all the names of the elders and their addresses. Doxing at its best, right? He looked them up. I mean, you know, the wrath of Gideon hit Succoth at 8 o'clock tonight. The sun's gone down and the whole town is shaken in fear. And one by one, the elders are pulled out of their beds and they're thrashed with thorns. Now you're kind of wondering, like, okay, how does this pertain to us? Are we going to give somebody a thrashing? I mean, what came up in Gideon's heart here? Gideon did not come back with bitterness. What he came back with from killing those two Midianite kings was, you know what? We want a victory for you guys. You're going to reap the benefits of this victory. You're going to claim the benefits of this victory as leaders. When you come to Succoth and the elders will not help you, when you come to Penuel and the elders will not help you.
And this is a tough one to answer. And it relates to you and me personally in a big way. Because God has a call on your life, and He's called you to do something that you don't have a huge army for. He's called every one of us to do something that's way above and beyond what we can ever accomplish on our own. And we want to be that guy. We want to be the David. We want to be the Gideon. We want to fight with guys like this. They're the small number who are given to God, and we can go and we can do and we can build something great.
Can you imagine Gideon leading these 300 men in pursuit of the last two kings of the Midianites? He wasn't looking over his shoulder wondering, have I got the right guys with me? No, these guys are tired, hungry, and wet, and they are pursuing. I don't want to be using somebody else's army to do the work God has called me to do. I want to run with the 300 pastors on the Victory Asia platform. How about that? We have the same heart. We have the same drive. We've got the same tenacity and the same purpose, the same vision. But more than that, we fight for one another. We're doing this to win a victory for everybody. Every victory I win is yours, and every victory you win is mine, because we have the right army. And so it doesn't matter what circumstances are contrary to us winning this battle, we win.
And then it comes to our brothers, and we say, we're going to war. Come and help us, support us. And they say, yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe if you go win a war first, then we'll get behind you.
Has that ever happened to you? You've been working on a project and you're looking for support, you're looking for people to come along and to help and invest in it. And they say, well, no, you finish the project first and then we'll invest in it.
Are you really our brothers? Are you really part of Israel? Are you really part of this kingdom? Are you really part of this vision when you won't help us accomplish the thing that you know God has called us to do? And it's not only fruit for us, it's fruit to your account. It's not only protecting us, it's protecting you.
All they had to do was give some bread to these tired, hungry soldiers, and they would have played a full part in the great victory that Gideon was winning for Israel.
Yeah, but we never sent you, Gideon. Yeah, but God did.
In Gideon's mind, being called by God and to be sent by God to win a victory for the nation or for the churches or for the organization or whatever it is, for the people that you're winning the victory for.
And that's why he had such confidence. And that's why he could look them in the face and say, you know what? You're in trouble. You are required by God to get involved in this great commission.
They're required. It's impending upon them to invest and to support the work that God has called the leaders to do.
You are not in any way allowed to dismiss the Great Commission on the grounds that you don't know if I'm called or not. And many of us come from nations where the level of Christianity and purpose and missionary vision is weakening day by day, year by year.
It's not just a matter of missing the reward, but what happens in Succoth and Penuel is that they go into a deep level of poverty and desperation. And we saw this is what the book of Judges is about, right?
Israel, under the judges, would go into 40 years of backsliding, not caring about their national vision, not caring about the vision that God had gave them. And they would go into a 40-year slump.
And they're no longer holding on to the victory that God gave them. They're no longer investing in the vision for their nation. And they're right into deep, deep poverty again.
Like the Midianites who would come in and take every blade of rice or wheat they planted and every animal that they could get their hands on. They took everything. They just reaped the land and they left. There was nothing but dust.
And you watch people that don't invest, don't get involved. They will end up in another cycle of deep poverty.
And Israel lived like that, and it's not God's plan.
That, to me, is despicable.
But the reason they lived like that is because they wouldn't get involved in what God was doing. And if we, as a church, continue down the road of being so self-interested and taking care of and all of the stuff we do for ourselves, and it becomes all about me. And you know what? If you want to be victorious, you're going to have to get out of that need-mindedness. But as long as we're in this what I need instead of what I can give and how I can support and see the Great Commission fulfilled, we are going to go into a place of more and more captivity and oppression, and soon all of the wonderful commonwealth that we have gathered will be gone anyway. The Midianites will come and take it.
The only way we can come around is to get involved and sow and give and support. Give our bread to the 300 soldiers of Gideon, for Pete's sake. And quit making excuses to not give. Terry and Becky are going to talk to the Mennonite missionaries this week and encourage them, because their organization wants them to come home. Because Canada has more needs than Thailand. And now, a few years later, this organization based in Canada has actually terminated, well, let's call it fired, these missionaries who are doing a wonderful work just down the road from us. So they've actually had to join another army to fulfill the call of God on their lives for the nation of Thailand. Tanawat and Amy just bought that car from a missionary in Chiang Mai. Their whole organization went home because England has more needs than Thailand. What are you thinking, you men of Succoth? They're Penuelites. Like, seriously? You're not going to support the work that we're called to do? And what's going to happen to you? I'm concerned about our countries. I'm concerned about our churches that won't get on board and help with the mission's vision. When people support you, they actually bring protection and release upon their own lives. And when you give from Canada or from wherever, you are actually buying into the future of Canada. When you give to someone that we've sent out, when you support them, you're actually doing something that changes. It keeps the Midianites off your back. It keeps the Midianites from coming in and stealing your crops and your animals. That's what God said. He said, you open the windows, and he said, I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes. And there's lots of guys that had to go to war at their own expense, right? Paul said you should not. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, he talks about it over and over and again. He says, look at Corinthians. You need to support us. We're your apostolic ministry. You need to support us in the thing that God has called us to do. And he says, it's even written in the law that you should not muzzle the ox that treads the corn. It's a principle. We don't go to war at our own expense. It's not the bread of the people of Succoth or Penuel. It's their hearts. They don't have a heart to invest. They just want to take benefits. They just want to be part of the blessing. We do not want people in our churches that sit there for decade after decade just wanting the blessing and not wanting to invest their lives in the call of God that's on them just as much as it's on us. What you and I do is for the good of the kingdom. Amen? This is a church thing. It's what God has called us to do. He's put a great commission on us as believers. This is what God has called me to do, and God has equally called you to get involved. It's not the bread of the people of Succoth or Penuel. It's their hearts. And so that's what Gideon is saying to these guys. This is a victory for you guys.
Remember when the angel said, you mighty man of valor, go in this might of yours, the Lord is with you. And Gideon said, well, if the Lord is with us, then why has all this bad stuff happened? Well, now, because not everybody is engaged. Not everybody is supporting. Not everybody is working together. There's apathy, there's selfishness, there's jealousy, self-centeredness. And you know, in the end, Gideon got off track, and this is maybe where it started. But for you and I, we're to keep our hearts with all diligence. And when we go to war, we're to win the war for everybody, not just those that deserve it. Why? Because we are mighty men and women of valor, and we are leaders.